All right, we're going to hear Parshas Vayishlach, and we're going to speak about the idea of Ma'aseh Avos Siman Lebanim. These parshas are so critical in our making because the Ramban explains that this idea of Ma'aseh Avos Siman Lebanim means that and everything that happened to the Avos is the paradigm, is the foundations, and what's going to happen to Klal Yisrael in history. So therefore, we have to work to understand many of the key and critical concepts. Now, let's start by the main one of the most. Leah had the majority of the Jewish nation. So if Leah had the majority of the Jewish nation, then seemingly we should focus on her actions because that's what's instilling in Klal Yisrael something unbelievable. We have Leah marry Yaakov, and she has 3 children. By the 4th child, we find something unbelievable. She says, "V'tar oid," the pasuk says, "V'tar oid v'telid ben, v'taymer apam oida es Hashem, al ken kara shemoy Yehuda, v'tamod miledas." So that means that she had another child, and she said, "This time I'm going to thank Hashem." Until now, you weren't thanking Hashem. So there's a famous Rashi, and Rashi says, I took more than my portion, and now I should thank Hashem. What's going on? Now you thank Hashem because you took more than your portion? Don't we thank Hashem for everything? Only when we get something extra? For the basics, we don't thank Hashem? We don't say, Hashem returned our soul, and therefore we thank Him? What is Leah saying? Now I'm gonna thank Hashem. It's seemingly absolutely puzzling to us. It doesn't make any sense. And if we look further, the Gemara in Brachos says that Talmud, the Gemara in Brachos, Amar Rabbi Yochanan, Mishum Rabbi Shimon ben Yochai, Miyoim Shebarach Kadosh Baruch Hu, as a lamoy, Loi Haya Adam Shahoida LaKadosh Baruch Hu Ad Sheba Ba'asa Leah V'Hoida Shnemar Apam Oida Hashem. From the day Hashem created the world, there was no one who thanked Hashem, who was Hoida to Him, until Leah, like it says in the pasuk, Hapam Oides Hashem. That means this thanking, which seemed to us, as the Mefarshim ask, and as Aaron Liebstein asks, to be illogical and against how we view the general thanking, this thanking is the pinnacle thanking of all of history. No one had thanked Hashem until now. This is the first time that we find someone thanked Hashem. So if that's the truth, we have to really understand this, because it's a lesson for us for all of history. It's the mother of the majority of Klal Yisrael came and taught us how to thank Hashem. And it seems to be the opposite of thanking Hashem. It seems to be kafoi tov. It seems to be not appreciating what Hashem did. Imagine you give your child so many things, clothing and raising them, and trips. And at the end of a trip, you take them to Eretz Yisrael and you spend $1,000. You get them an ice cream. They say, "Wow, thank you for the ice cream. This ice cream is unbelievable." I think any normal human being would be absolutely livid. You might go back to America and leave your child in Israel to say, "You know what, you could stay with the ice cream. You could dance with that ice cream, and maybe you'll appreciate me. You could here's my number. Someone can teach you how to call America." See, anyone would be livid. But this is the point where we thank Hashem. The Gemara explains this is the first time. This is the lesson of thanking Hashem. How do we understand that? If we go further, this name Yehuda is made up of a Dalet and a Yud K and a Vav K. It's made up of the Shem Hashem, the Shem Havaya, the ultimate Shem Hashem, which is the Shem of Rachamim, the Shem of the name of Hashem having mercy on us, and as well that's Hayahoviviyeh, past, present, and future. What's so special about Yehuda's name that it was inclusive of Shem Hashem in it? And a last question is that we know a Jew is called a Yid. But that's really a Yehudi. A Yid is a Yehudi. We are defined by this name. And this is not just a colloquial term that's used by people. The Medrash in Parshas Vayechi says, Amar Reb Shimon ben Yochai, you kol achicha nikran al shimcha. Yaakov Avinu was saying to Yehuda that all your brothers will be called upon your name, Yehuda, a Yehudi. Ein Adam Omer Ruveni, Ana Shimoini, Ana. Ela Yehudi Ana, a person does not say that I'm a Ruveni, that I'm a Shimoini. You say I'm a Yehudi. That means this name is our definition. So we really have to understand what's going on with it. It's the first thanking. It has the Shem Havaya. It seems to be nonsensical when we look at Rashi, and it's our whole definition. So if we have to understand something, we have to understand this. Who are we? What is a Jew? What is a Yehudi? If you go on in last week's Parsha, there's another very interesting Maisa story with Leah. Rachel is barren. She's childless. She's not here. She feels down in the dumps. And she wants so badly to have a child. And what happens? She sees that Reuven went and got Dudayim. Dudayim were a certain kind of medical plant which would help with childbirth. So Reuven comes back, and Rachel goes to Leah that she wants the Dudayim. She wants this unbelievable birthing thing to bring on childbirth and to bring on pregnancy. And we find that there's a very, very puzzling, very, very challenging back and forth between them. The Psukim say that when Rachel asked Leah for her Dudayim, Leah seemingly gets upset at her. And the Pasuk says that she says, Leah asks her and she says, well, first, v'toimer la, hama'at kachtech es ishi. First, it's not enough you took my husband. V'lakachas gam es dudai bini. Now you're going to take my Dudayim? And Rachel then, she acquiesces and she doesn't know what to say. She says, okay, v'toimer Rachel lechein yishkav imach halayla tachas dudai b'neich. You know what, I want this segula, this medical flower to help bring on pregnancy so much that I am willing to give up a night with Yaakov Avinu, give up a night with the person who created Klal Yisrael, who bore the Shvatim. And for that, Leah acquiesces. Now, if we just pick apart that pasuk, it's one of the most mind-boggling psukim in Chumash. You're dealing with one of the imos, Leah, the person, again, who gave birth to the majority of Klal Yisrael from any single mother. The majority of Klal Yisrael at all. And Leah says to her sister, her sister gave up her whole life for Leah. Rachel could have been the only wife. And what did she do? She gave up her life for Leah. And Leah says to her, what, you want these Dudayim? Okay, wouldn't that make sense that Leah would want Dudayim? Wouldn't it make sense that that Rachel would want Dudayim? Wouldn't it make sense that Rachel would want something to help her get pregnant? She says to her, now she starts bashing her. She says, well, you already took my husband. See, that seems to be a very, very childish chas v'shalom to say about Leah. It seems to be, obviously it doesn't mean that. Very childish point. You took my husband. Whoa, let's back up. Rachel gave her husband. She would have married Esav otherwise. And more than that, Rachel did not coerce, force, or push Yaakov into being with her more than the other wives. It was Yaakov's choice. So what in the world does Leah mean when she says, is it not that enough that you took my husband? You didn't take my husband. You gave me a husband. And Yaakov is much more than an adult. He's one of the Abbas. He's in the Kisi HaKavod. He made a calculated decision to be with Rachel. That was his choice. And Leah's blaming her for that? What's going on here? It's unbelievable. And the next words, L'kachas gam es dudai. And now you want my dudai? Now you want these flowers? Of course she wants the flowers. She is not able to have children, and this might help her. Why would Leah be upset at her for that? If anyone who has ever experienced infertility, it is one of the most painful and challenging experiences a person can go through. Rahman al-Islam, we shouldn't know, but unfortunately it's common. Baruch Hashem, there are ways now, Shtadlus, to fix it, and there's unbelievable success. But every single day is so painful that they know they're not having children, they can't have children. Rachel can't have children. And now, and she wants to do something, and Leah pushes her for that. And more than that, it's not a normal situation of infertility. She's watching everyone around her, her co-wives, and Leah are able to have children, and she's not. It's crushing her. It's crumbling her. And that's what Leah says to her. Yeah, now you want my Dudayim. It seems absolutely ludicrous. Why would Leah say that? Why would she crush her? Any person we know would never say something. Someone doesn't have children, unfortunately. You always have to be sensitive. How much do you talk about your children? How much do you talk about the other children? What do you pregnancy and birth? You have to be very careful not to hurt them. Leah, the mother of Klal Yisrael, says, wow, you want one of these fixes, these physical fixes to help you? Of course she wants that. And she gave you everything. And this is how you repay her? How do we understand this seemingly unbelievable insensitivity? And then you read the next psukim, and it becomes even more bewildering. Yaakov comes home from the field, and it says, "V'toimer elai tavo ki sachar sacharticha bidudai bini." She says, "Come to me, Yaakov. I've rented you out with the dudai bini." This is how Leah talks to Yaakov Avinu. She demands, and she says she rented him. What? You rent Yaakov Avinu? Yaakov Avinu is not for sale. He's not for rent. Like we said, he's an adult, and more than he is an adult. He's one of the us. How do we possibly understand what Leah was saying? And more than that, in halacha, in the sugya nedarim and Avchaf, and it's brought down in halacha that a woman is not allowed to demand that her husband be with her. She cannot demand and say, "You have to be with me." That's usher. It's one of the B'nai Tesha Midas. Yaakov would not have been allowed to be with her that night if she was demanding it. So it can't be she was demanding. Can't say that I hired you and you must be with me. Besides the fact that it's extremely inappropriate. It's not the way they talk to one of the us, or anybody for that matter. It's usher and halacha. So it cannot be that's what Yaakov heard. And it cannot be that's what Leah said. So what in fact is going on? Now we come to this week's Parsha. We know the famous battle that Yaakov Avinu had with the Sar Shel Esav, with the Malach. And the Rekeach says that when Yaakov Avinu had this battle, when he went to go save the Pachim, he was being misaking, he was fixing all the galus of history, all the different exiles which we have, and the Ge'ulas which we experience were because Yaakov at that moment did actions, Mais Avos Sim Nabanim, to have an opportunity, to create an opportunity for us in the future for Ge'ula, to have the koyach of Ge'ula. So this is seemingly a very important battle. It was the battle of history. It was Yaakov Avinu versus the Yetzer Hara, versus the Sar Shel Esav, versus the Umas HaOlam, all the nations of the world which are out to get us. So if that's the case, we really have to look and see what's happening here. Because that's what we got our definition as Kalal Yisrael. Until that point in time, there was no Kalal Yisrael. There's Bnei Yaakov. Now, Bnei Yaakov are very important. But there's Kalal Yisrael. That's our definition in history. This is where we go down as the nation. So if so, we have to understand what's going on. And it's quite a puzzling story. What does it mean that Yaakov Avinu went and had a battle royale with a Malach? What were they fighting over? What was the back and forth? And if you look at the end of the story, it seems to be very puzzling. Yaakov beats the Malach, whatever that means. And once he beats the Malach, he says, "Okay, tell me your name." And the Malach says to him, "Vayisha Yaakov, vayomer hagida na shemecha." Tell me your name. Vayomer la mazeh tisha lishmi. The Malach responds, "Well, what do you want to know for? Stop bothering me. You already beat me up. We tussled. I thought I would win. I'm supernatural. And somehow you overcame me. Let me go. I'm done with this. Don't ask me my name." Okay, that's a strange back and forth at the very least. And then, the Malach blesses him, and we go on to the next parak. What is going on? Yaakov beats the Yetzer Hara. He has him in a headlock. He can ask him a very simple question. Hey, how do I beat you? How do my children beat you for all of history? And instead, he just says, "What's your name?" He says, "Yeah, get off of me. What do you want to know for?" Yaakov had the opportunity of a lifetime to save Klal Yisrael. Imagine we opened up a book and we had the answer. We can beat the Yetzer Hara. He told us how. The Sar Shel Esav, the Yetzer Hara. We have the answer. Yaakov gave it to us. He forced it out of him. No. Yaakov just asked him what his name is. Get off of me. Whatever. Oh, give him a bracha. What's the back and forth? How can we understand this? So we have a bunch of questions from the Leah. Story with Leah originally with Yehuda, the name Yehuda, thanking what's going on. We have Rachel and Leah. What was their back and forth? What was Rachel asking for? What was Leah doing? What was she saying to Yaakov? And now we have in this story, what was this battle? What was the nature of it? Why didn't Yaakov help us with the key, the elixir for life to beat the Yetzer Hara? If we go on now, we'll be able to, if we bring out a nice story right now, I think that will help us understand the foundations here. There was once a woman in the barracks of Auschwitz. And in the barracks of Auschwitz, we all know that it was something unimaginable. It was Gehenna on this earth. Every moment was filled with hunger, pain, starvation, malnutrition, things which, Baruch Hashem, we literally can't picture. It's literally a nightmare because it's not any reality that we know. Unfortunately, there are people now, the hostages who Baruch Hashem have been released, who did experience this reality. But to the 99.99999% of the world and the Jewish people, this is just a nightmare. But it was real to these people in Auschwitz. It was real to the hostages. Now, there's a story where they all slept on, obviously, these horrible sleeping boards. It was very uncomfortable, disgusting, and everyone was cramped in. And you would be being, in your very minimal time of sleep, you would be being crushed by the other people. But they would sleep anyway because there was no choice. That's what they had. However, in the women's barrack in Auschwitz, near one of the windows, there was one dirty mattress. And once in every 2 months, you had an opportunity to get somewhat of a peaceful sleep, if we can call it that. And there was a teenage girl named Chaya Fessler, who was a lot stronger and more vigorous than the other women because she had just been mature enough and strong enough to make the cut to be a working girl. But on the other hand, she was still so much younger and had more vitality and strength than everyone. So that means that she was able to weather the storm a lot more. She was able to do more. And there was a middle-aged woman named Blanca Kurtz. And Blanca Kurtz came up to her and said, listen, I know it's your night, but you're so much stronger than everyone else. And there's a sickly older woman who's unfortunately she's dying. We don't know how much time she has left. But if she sleeps in the bed tonight, it's going to make the biggest difference for her. I can't ask anyone else because everyone else is also weak. You are the only person I could ever think I could ask. And it came out that she needs the bed on your night. Will you do it? Now you could imagine how this tore Chaya apart. We can't imagine that what it would be to crave sleeping on a thin mattress, thinner than any mattress that we could ever imagine. We all need, you're in Israel, you need the American mattress. And if you get those like futons, it's not good. And if you're in America, maybe you need a water bed, or whatever it's going to be, all the different types of mattresses that we go to, all the mattress store, Mattress King. And they were craving maybe something with a little bit of hay. We can't picture them. We never should. But Be'ez Hashem, no one should ever have to think of such a thing. And as the hours got close to the time of sleep, she's toying back and forth. And she realized that Hashem put her in this condition, that she has more strength than other people. This was her challenge. This was her test. And she gave up her spot to this elderly woman, which was a harder test than anything we could imagine. And when she went to her friends, they all gave her hugs and kisses and celebrated with her that she had done such an unbelievable chesed, brought a light into the darkest times. And when she did that, they went to sleep. Shortly after, the Nazis had gotten in a drunken stupor, and they were fighting with each other outside and screaming and yelling, and the women were petrified. One of the Nazis pulled out his gun and he started shooting. And some of the bullets flew into the barracks. And unfortunately, one of them flew right by that mattress, by the open window, and unfortunately killed the elderly, sickly woman. Chaya realized at that time she was saved due to her chesed. If she would have been selfish, if she would have looked at that little encapsulated thing and said, okay, I want something, I need something, chayecha kod min, my life comes first, her life would have been last. Her life would have been the first to go. And Baruch Hashem, she lived. How did she get the strength to do this? How did she have any level to be able to overcome in the most challenging circumstances and care for someone else? And the answer is that when we go through our lives, we go through this world, there's two ways to perceive things. There's the way to perceive things in the physical. Look what's in front of me. Look what I need. Look what I have. Where is it going? And then there's the deeper look of life, which is that this world is just a mask. And Hashem's running everything. And the only thing which helps me in this world is Torah, mitzvahs, trusting in HaKadosh Baruch Hu. When you are in Auschwitz, you can see death and destruction and take that as your life. Or what you can do is you can realize the world cannot be a place of death and destruction. The world has to be something much more. And therefore, it was much easier for her to peel back the mask of reality, to peel back existence and see the true existence. And when you live on that existence, the existence that would runs the world is our maisim tovim, our schuyas, like the bracha of Yaakov was that when you are up in Ruchnius, you'll be up in Gashmias. When you are succeeding spiritually, you will succeed physically, which is the whole bracha of Ayim Shemaya. Our reality is dependent upon one thing, which is that we peel back the mask of reality and we see the true light behind and underneath everything. And that's what Chaya did. That's what gave her strength. When Yaakov was battling the Malach, the Malbim, the Bas Ayin, and many others explained this was not a physical battle. Yaakov Avinu was dispashed from his guf. He was going to the upper worlds in order to give Klal Yisrael more of a connection to spirituality, to make them feel the spiritual, the ruchnius in this world. The Sashal Esav came to rip him down, to bring him into the physicality, to root him here and not allow him to have that connection, to see that truth. That was their battle. Can you escape this world? Can I look past the mask of reality? That was the battle, explains the Malbim and many other Mefarshim. And when Yaakov wins, he gave us the koyach for eternity to peel back that mask, to peel back that layer, to see HaKadosh Baruch Hu in everything. He beat the Sar Shel Esav. And that means we have that koyach too today. And what was the back and forth? Yaakov had him in a headlock. Now he beat him. He said, what's your name? He said, what is your essence? The Malbim explains that the name is the essence of a being. So he was asking him, what's your essence? How do I get into your nucleus? What makes you tick? How do I beat you? And the Malach answers, why do you want to know? He was saying, I do not have a set name. I do not have a set shape. I do not have a set form. Rather, I will always create masks in this world. Masks of ruchnius, masks of spirituality, to seep you into the physicality. That's what I will do. You will never know my name. So what do you have to do? You have to question that. You have to always look at every situation and say, what's going on here? Why do you want to know? What's the name? What's going on in this situation? Is this the Yetzer Hara or not? That was his answer. This is how you beat me. To always look and to always question, is this something positive for my ruchnius? Or is it a mask? Is it a trick of the Yetzer Hara? And then he blessed him. He gave him the Birchas Kohanim according to the Medrash, which is the greatest bracha we can get. It's the only bracha from the Torah. Famously, the Brisker Rav had a minyan, and they didn't have Birchas Kohanim. And they spent a very long time trying to find two Kohanim, two is deraisa. And they asked the Brisker Rav, this is Tirchat Zibura, what's going on? How did you hold up the minyan for so long? And the Brisker Rav said that, do you know, every single day people come and wait hours to see me. Hours and hours to get a bracha. They should be gebenched. They should have some advice. And what happens? I give them that bracha and they're smiling from ear to ear. The bracha that the Torah promises that we will have atzlachas, Birchas Kohanim, is the bracha for history. It's next to the Chanukas HaMizbeach. That is what the Malach gave him. That's our bracha for all of eternity, to always know that everything is always Hashem. It's always coming from the Birchas Kohanim. It's not the mask we see in front of us. The Yetzer Hara tells Yaakov, don't look at me. Always look behind me. Always ask the question. That's what a Jew has to do. So that's what Yaakov was instilling in us in that battle, that we have to remove ourselves from the physicality. We have to listen to the Yetzer Hara and question him. Know that he is not really what's in front of us. He is just creating a mask. And we always have to peel it back. We always have to look and say, is this helping me? Is this bringing me closer to spirituality? We have to question. Never leave something unquestioned. Never leave a stone unturned. Now, if we go to the back and forth between Leah and Rachel by Dudayim, the back and forth explains the Malbim, that Leah said, Rachel, you keep focusing too much on the Shtadlus. You need to focus on bitachon. You think because you are with Yaakov every night, or the majority of the nights, that you are going to have a higher chance of having children statistically. Stop. Trust in Hashem. And now you're taking my Dudayim as well. Now you think that Dudayim, this medical flower to help pregnancy, is going to bring you children? No, it will not. That's not what will bring you children. What will bring you children is trusting in Hashem. The Bible says that Rachel took the words on face value. And she said, okay, you're upset about Dudayim, take Yaakov. And when Leah went to Yaakov, explains the Malbim and the Vayishlach, and she said, Schar schurteich. She says, my schar to be with you is because I had bitachon. It was not that she was renting him out and demanding him as chas v'shalom. She says, I was the baboteich here. I was the one who saw past the mask of reality. I peeled back the layers. And I knew that everything is from Hashem. That was the back and forth between Rachel and Leah. It had nothing to do with Leah chas v'shalom putting down Rachel. Rachmana litzlan to imagine this thing. It had nothing to do with her demanding something of Yaakov. It was her saying that I have achieved levels in emunah and bitachon. I have always looked at what's past the reality, which is also how the Midrash says she was Zaycha to marry Yaakov in the first place, is because she davened that she should not fall in the lot of Esav, and Rachel didn't daven as hard. Leah was the one who was always able to drill past everything. And we get to the name Yehuda. Again, Leah said, Apa moedes Hashem, now I thank Hashem. Rashi says that it means since she already got what she was supposed to, now she can thank Hashem, which we said does not make any sense. You thank Hashem for everything. When you get your soul back in the morning, you thank Hashem. Not only when you get your coffee. Not only when you get your bagel with cream cheese and lox. You thank Hashem for everything. And this really means something else. If you look at the Malbim and the the Barbanel, they explain that the first three names were Leah trying to win her husband back. She was saying, look, Yaakov, look what I'm giving you. Love me as well more. And when she felt she achieved that with Levi, that's what it says, Yaakov was going to escort her now. Then she was able to switch to completely thanking Hashem. Because that was a matnas chinam. It was not needed anyway. She felt the first three were needed for her technical life. So she focused on those aspects to show Yaakov. However, explains the Barbanel, it was a complete gift. She was able to recognize that this didn't fit anywhere in the picture. Al Kain, oides Hashem. He explains that, therefore, she didn't explain a reason that that you see my pain, that you listen to my tefillas, that Yaakov's going to escort me. It's just a pure gift. And the Malbim says the same thing, that she did not have to create a new thing between her and Yaakov for Yaakov to appreciate him more. Rak, Hashem ki toif. Only to thank Hashem because he is good. So that's what Rashi, we could say, really means, that this was a pure chesed. It had nothing to do with the technicalities of your life, what was meant for her in her basic marriage. We all feel like we have needs. And those needs are important. We have to thank Hashem for this. And she was saying, Hashem, you listened to my tefillos. You saw my pain. She wasn't not thanking Hashem, but there's a specific aspect where there is no need for this, which is what many explain by the famous Kasha Pnei Yeshua by Chanukah. Chanukah, it says that they could have lit the oil. They didn't need that Pach Shemen. They could have lit Tamei oil because there's a halacha that when the majority of Klal Yisrael is Tamei, you are allowed to do avodah in the Beis Hamikdash with Tumah. Tumah, Hutcher B'tzibur. Why in the world did the Hashem create this nace of the Pach Shemen of it lasting for 8 days? And many explain that the answer is because Hashem wanted to give us that extra kiss. The battle we needed. We needed that nace of the battle. We did not need the nace of the Pach Shemen. That was Hashem coming to give us that extra kiss, that extra love. We have to know that everything we have in our life is from that extra kiss. That's what we're focusing on. Every night when we light the menorah, we don't commemorate the battle. We commemorate the kiss. And we say, Al Nisim Bayim Ubizman Hazed. These Nisim, these kisses, these extra hugs from Hashem are here right now in our lives. And this is the name of a Jew, a Yehudi. The Shem Havaya, the Yud K and the Vav K. The ultimate reality. Haya, Hoyve, V'yiyah. Hashem is past, present, and future. Pure oneness. That's what a Jew is. What does it mean that the world's pure oneness? It means when I peel off the mask and I go into Hashem's world, I see Hashem's Yud K Vav K, a pure chesed. Everything we have is really the matnas chinam. Sometimes we view it like Leah. Sometimes we view it like the Milchama, that this is what I need for my life. I feel like it's an absolute necessity, and of course I should thank for that. But then we feel elated when we get that extra kiss. The Yehudi, the job of a Jew is to realize that when we light that Chanukah menorah, that when we get something, when we get our basic needs, that's all the extra kisses. Because when we go into Hashem's world, we see we don't deserve anything. It's kula, really, it's Hashem giving us chesed, Yud Kei and Vav Kei. That's the ultimate reality. We have Elokeinu, Shema Yisrael Hashem Elokeinu Hashem Echad. Din, we have the challenges, we have the necessities, but really we have to realize Hashem Echad. Yud Kei Vav Kei is one. It's the ultimate reality. Everything is a chesed from Hashem. And that's what a Jew is. Explains the Chedush Harim. Degel Machne Ephraim, Bnei Yissaschar. A Yehudi is someone who realizes Hakol b'matnas chinam. We have to try and live, as Nefesh Chaim says in Perek Gimel, in Shar Gimel, Ein Oid Milvadoi, to live with the constant reality that everything in this world is coming from Hashem. There's nothing outside of it. There's no real seder to anything. It's all coming from Hashem's matnas chinam. If we peel back the mask, if we do what Yaakov Avinu did and go into the upper worlds, if we do what Leah did and be talking to the highest level, then Schar Sochatech will be zeicha to be miyuchad and with Yaakov Avinu, with him going to the higher worlds, with him beating the Malach. And that's how you beat the Yetzer Hara. You look at all these examples and you try anything, any challenge you have, you peel back and say, is this coming from the Yud Kei Vav Kei? Is this coming from HaKadosh Baruch Hu? Or is it the Yetzer Hara trying to mask me? So that's the lesson here of the Yehudi. That's the lesson of the Jew. That's the lesson of Yaakov Avinu. That we use this name, Shem Havaya, Yud Kei and Vav Kei. We use this ultimate thanking to realize that the whole world's a matnas chinam. And again, we do that by entering into Hashem's ultimate reality. And that's the way to beat the Yetzer Hara. The more we're connected and plugged into that, into Yaakov Avinu's goal during that battle of going up to the worlds, the more we connect and realize that Yetzer Hara is masking and changing his shape, and we have to question that and know that this is not coming from anything but Hashem, we will always win. You have a flat tire, you can get angry, you can lose it. You can say it's coming from Hashem. Of course, the person has to deal with their emotional stability in a practical way, but we have to know it's coming from Hashem. Your child does something, your friend does something, you can blame them. That's the Yetzer Hara. The Yetzer Hara is to blame them. You can question and say, where is this coming from? It's coming from Hashem. And the more we do that, the more we live Leah-dik, the more that we live Yaakov-dik, the more that we live Yehudi-dik, the more we are going to appreciate our lives and be able to beat the Yetzer Hara at every single turn. That's the goal. But as Hashem, we should be zeicha to be able to constantly peel back layers of reality, to live in the Haya V'yiyah, to live the Yehudi, and to beat the Yetzer Hara at every turn with that koyach of the Ein Ol Mevadoi, to never get tricked by him in his different forms, to always question and know where everything in our lives is coming from. Have an amazing Shabbos.